Hello and welcome back to Cloud A to Z. And once again, we will be looking to one more topic which is called as AWS pricing. And you can click here to go to AWS pricing. And if I can repeat once again, the URL is tutorials.dozo.com, and it's a link to all AWS cheat sheets which they have. We have the content where which can be easily revisable before attending an exam. Okay, so we are going today on AWS pricing. So if you go to AWS pricing, and AWS prices, it started pricing on pay as you go since the starting, and it's even being beneficial to customer and to them as well even now after 20 years. And what I would say is they basically charge based upon three different criteria. The one is the compute, how much computation you are doing, and the other is storage, how much data you're storing, and the other is how much data you're transferring out of the AWS infrastructure. So that is these particular three things which AWS charges you money, but the charges on you need to pay accordingly. And there is also a criteria the way you pay, it does also matters, because you can use certain concept as like AWS organization and other concepts which you can use, and you can actually combine all of the bills across your different teams, different application teams, different subscriptions, or everything in a single together, and then single account together, and then you can pay all these bills via a single organization account. So it will give, because the amount is more, so you will get a prorated or discount on that particular amount. So that's one thing which works fine for the customers, as I say. So the AWS pricing has few of the characteristics, I can say, or things which we need to observe is like it's always pay as you go. And yeah, there are services which are reserved and other thing. It's pay as you go basically, and there is no upfront investment is needed for compulsory. But if you're going with a reserved instance in EC2 or something like that, yes, you would you have the concept of paying upfront or partial upfront like that, but it's basically no upfront for any of the services. And other thing is you pay less for when you reserve a particular services like EC2 instance, for example. You pay less, and I will show you how much exactly you're gonna pay less. Okay. Another thing is pay less by using more as well. So there are services which actually gives you boost, like the more you use, the less you'll be paying. We'll be going through those sort of services in the next sessions. And you have pay per use, as like you can switch off your particular services when it's not used, and you can switch it back, and you'll be charged. That's it. And pay less when AWS grows. So this is one very crucial thing which AWS customer need to understand, is the more you use, the more AWS will get the money, of it will get funded to open a new data centers. So which means that new hardware would be available in your region, rather than the limited hardware in three availability zones which you have right now, right? So that's one thing, one good thing. The more AWS grows its infrastructure, and it optimizes its hardware into more of cheaper and performant hardwares. Okay, so which makes AWS to charge less to the customers, because AWS being customer obsessed. And if you go through inside, there are few services like Amazon EC2, Amazon EMR, and Amazon RDS, where you have something called as a reserved capacity, where you can book something called as reserved instances. And the basically what happens is, like, there is something called as on-demand instance. So on-demand instance is nothing but you went to the portal and you started clicking on the UI, and then you provisioned the resource and you started using that. Is on demand. And for that, AWS keeps some capacity that you will come and click, right? So similarly, like, there's something called as reserve instances, where you reserve a particular instance or hardware for 1 year, 2 year, or minimum 1 year, 2 year, or 3 years sort of time period. And you pay a certain upfront. Okay, it depends. The more upfront you pay, or the more the time you reserve an instance, you actually get you would get more discounted, and you get an hourly discounted rates as well if you reserve the instances for years. For approximately it comes to a 75% of cost saving if you're going with a reserved instance rather than going and getting a resource at on demand. So yes, there are few things, the three things which is called as the all upfront, where you pay the all the amount which you will be charged for the reserved instances. All calculator forecasted how much it would be, and you will get a good discounted prices. And partial upfront, way you can pay partial, and then the other would be, like you will still have a little bit of discounted rates, but on the amount you won't get the discounts. And no upfront is also like you're not it's you're reserving, you'll get a discounted hourly rate but not on the total bill. So there are volume based discounts as well, like the more you use the lesser you pay. That's what is the benefit with Amazon S3. The more data you actually put in, it's lesser you're gonna pay per megs of data, I can say. And for new accounts, you can always for new AWS account, you get around 12 months free subscription, the account, and then you can just go in here on this aws.amazon.com/free, and you can get this particular services for free, and you have some free time. What are the other, what are the various compute capacity, your database and other things, whatever you get are listed in here. You get 750 hours of EC2 instances and blah 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 blah. So there are a lot of things. Okay, you can select if you have any choice, like if you want to run a specific workload, you just want to run a WordPress for free, then probably you just go and you tick your particular WordPress. If you have an Apache or Linux instance where you want to run, you can select, and then you have 750 hours and something, and you can use it. Or if you just want to run your WordPress application, just go with the Elastic Beanstalk and just check the Elastic Beanstalk, and then it would be good. And these services are, you can select which services are free, always free, like DynamoDB and other are there until 25 gigs of data or something like that. And if you have any specific compute like artificial intelligence or other particular ML work you want to do, and you want to know the, like in 12 months whether which particular or how much capacity you're going to get free, you're free to go and click on the product categories, and then you can just use a serverless or something. You can see around 1 million simple queue service notifications you can send, or something like that. Storing message, you can store messages in it, right? And you can write step functions and other thing. So this is the free tier which you can get. And there's something called as the pricing calculator, also called, I can say, is TCO calculator, or total cost of ownership. And this is very important to people who want to migrate their particular workload from at on-premise, or shift their particular, want to lose their on-premise data center and want to go to AWS, but they're not sure what would be the price they're going to pay for each and every services, sort of services or similar services which they are using in their on-premise. And this is very good. And you have AWS Pricing Calculator, which has a good benefit because the pricing are very transparent, and it has a multi-region, in the sense like you can select for your particular place, like if you're hosting those particular AWS resources, or the alternative resource which you're trying in your data center, like you have your own on-premise, okay, and you want to replicate your own on-premise on AWS and in your region only, then it does support, like the calculation does support. You can select a region, and then you select your services. You will get your regional based the prices, not the common ones. And there are hierarchical estimates where you will have a different parts of your architecture, like you may have different components, a serverless component and other thing, or you may have an architecture where like you have a database, the components separately set up. So you can select all those services and then define accordingly, and then you get a rough exact estimate how much you're gonna have spent. And you can export these files in .csv, and then you can just share it with your business partners, and then make a go to AWS. So if I click on their pricing calculator, you have various services, default services, which are available, the AWS services, and they would give, you can select and you can configure them, what are the amount of data you're gonna use, and accordingly it would put up the data. Okay, so if in this case what I'm gonna do is like I'll go quickly and select something called as easy to instance, and I will go and select and let us know what is the prices. Okay, and yes, on cloud everything is virtual CPUs, and virtual CPUs are sort of zero 0.5 of I can say the actual RAM, I can say. So you can go and Google about virtual CPUs and what exactly the compute capacity or the core which you can calculate for one particular virtual CPU. In my knowledge, it is one virtual CPU is 0.5 core of a Intel based machine or something like that. Okay, and you can add your memories of RAM, what you're expecting, and the virtual CPU, and then the core's capacity, compute capacity, and then you can choose this is because whatever you choose a size, the amount of size, it's gonna select a instance type for you automatically, because these are the figures which you may be knowing from the on-premise, but not this D3A.X large. You don't know what exactly that means, right? So you can provide this particular basic figures which you can calculate from the on-premise or seek from on-premise, and then you have the corresponding instance coming up here. And the pricing strategies are very different for the easy to instance, and there are something called as saving plans. The saving plans is good, and you can click on the show calculations also. Okay, so the saving plans comes with like you define a term, like for which 1 year term you will sign up, and then you will say that I'll be using this instance for 1 year of time. Okay, and it would give you this particular plan where you can use this particular in this particular region itself, then you will get this particular discounted rate. So you have an hourly cost and other thing, everything calculated in here. You can see that. And for only EC2 instance saving plans, compute saving plans, convertible reserve instances, and standard reserve instances, where you have the flexibility of selecting partial upfront or full upfront. But with the on-demand instances, as you're going or getting on demand, you have this particular checkbox shadowed and disabled. And if you select any of this, let's go with easy to saving plans, and if I click on the 1 year term, the price is 79.50, which I'd be paying monthly. And if I select 3 years the contract, then I would be paying just 54. So that's very good, right? Almost 40% decrease in the your expenditure. So the more you the contract term you sign, the less you're gonna pay. And you have like with EC2 instance, so it gonna depends upon for an example, I'm just taking an EC2 instance, but you can play around with a lot of different services which you want to spin in the TCO or the pricing calculator. Okay, so you can click on the calculations, and you can mention like what sort of like whether you want to go with the solid state drives, or you just want to go with the normal hard disk magnetic, or to go with the magnetic drives itself. So according to that, the calculations are there. You can show also like calculate what then approximate spend it happens in your on-premise. Okay, and then so these are all the calculations which we have done. We have configured our services, and we can add estimate. And this other thing which I found very interesting about very interesting and developer friendly is like this particular chart, where you have advanced estimate, and you can actually define what sort of workload you have right now. So you have something as a monthly workload, where you have an application like timesheet application, or you have some other application which actually will be opened at the first or the last of the month. Then you can use such like such particular graphs to define like my workload is this. So it will set up its like you can set your own baseline, and the peak is what is a maximum number of instances you want at this particular time to meet your workload. Okay, you actually you have certain parameters where you are using, and then there are daily spike, there are weekly spike, traffic, everything you define, and you can get the corresponding EC2 instance as well. Okay, that's really good, which I found with AWS TCO calculator, which are missing in other particular TCO calculators from other public vendors. And then like you have a pricing strategy, and as I said, like it all depends upon like it's on demand and reserved also. You can do it. You have easy to instance plan. If you just decrease total upfront cost, so you can see like the less the upfront you pay, the more you're gonna pay monthly. If you paid an upfront for 3 years, 57 euros, you just pay 1.61 monthly. That's usually good, and you need to plan accordingly to save a lot of money. So we have on demand. In on demand, you don't have selection of instances, because here what happens is instance saving is like is a plan where you sign up a term for that particular 1 year. You're going to use this particular instance type which you have here, and then you will be using that particular instances out of this particular list of instances, and that's why you need to pay less. That is one thing. And we have compute saving plans, all reserved plans, and we have spot instances where you can go and order the instances from AWS. If any of their instances or hardware are lying for free, you can use it, and they are said to be 70% more efficient than any of any of the other instances if you get on demand. Okay, so those are good thing, and with this we will switch back to the main area, and let's meet in the next session. Thank you, and if you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. Thank you.